Good morning. Today is okay, we are recording. Never mind. Today is the 1st of June and we are in the Five Bogs. And we're doing kind of a follow-up to 2 weeks ago when we were here and kind of having a look around for the second time. Last week we did an initial look into the Rake Branch River area. We're going to be doing an expedition in there a little bit later on. I wanted to get a lay of the land, and it basically goes in a ways and then you run into a massive roadblock on the trail, and your option is to take up the river and follow that as a landmark where you can navigate by. So with any luck, we'll be doing that next week. You can see the bugs are plentiful. Just like last week, we're going to see what, if anything, has changed in here today and do some follow-up on that and a possible interaction we had last year and see where we go from there. So let's get going, see what we find, and we'll take things from there. Thanks. And we're back. We are at the meadow of 2 or 3 weeks ago we were at. We're going to just take a look around and do the vlog portion of this. I have to say, what I'm noticing in the evolution of the bug situation is that the gnats are gone, and what's here are deer flies. Thank the Lord I put on bug spray before I left the car, because there are deer flies and they are bloody bleeping everywhere. I don't know if you can see that, but they are swarming me even as we speak. And if I had forgotten my bug spray today, I dare say by the time I got back to the car, I would be one big bug bite. And these things, deer flies, are one of the more miserable. They're not black flies, but they're not far off. So having gotten that whining out of the way, some gossip from the week. So apparently somebody generated what's called a deep fake. And if you don't know what a deep fake is the misuse of AI generated art or audio to impersonate a person. And they're getting better all the time, so it's getting harder to detect. But Steve Kulls is claiming, if I understand his claim correctly, and part of this is insinuated in a conversation I had directly with him, that a Dogman researcher out of the UK had made the claim, or is making the claim. It may be two separate situations. I'm playing it back in my head as I say this on camera. The situation with the Dogman guy may be him slandering Steve, because Steve is a hoax buster, and any claims of Dogman by themselves to me are inherently suspect. But once you delve into any cryptid in England where you have people that have been stomping around that place for thousands of years, shy of the Loch Ness Monster, which I don't really have an opinion on, I have a sudden movement on the cameras because the deer flies are probing my defenses and finding a few holes in them, and they suck. They have to die. They really are miserable today. Jesus Christ. Anyway, it may just be that they're having a spat, and if he is, I'm a little disappointed in Steve, because Steve, you're a well-known guy in the community with respectability when it comes to calling out the BS and the nonsense, and we are of like mind behind that. He's also a good guy to go out in the field with if you get a chance too. Having done that once or twice. So I'm glad you're dead, you little bastard. So I'm gonna have to reapply the bug spray soon, because they're getting over it, and that means I'm gonna get swarmed and bitten like en masse, and I really don't. It's a nice day for the drone, but if I do that, I lower my defenses for these little bastards to come up and just have their way, and I really don't want to have that happen. So Steve called this guy out over something. It turned into a spat, and that's 2, sorry. This field is infested with them. I may have to seek other refuge from these vile creatures. They are literally all over me. Jesus Christ. We're going to have a look. What I'm basically doing is looking at a couple of fishing spots. I'm not going to prolong this trip if these things are that insistent. So, the deepfake was of Bob Gimlin, effectively confessing that the PGF was a hoax and he was in on it. But, again, if you're in IT like I am, or you have a practiced ear, Steve was at one point an investigator of some kind. You get practiced in reading body language and inflections, or in my case, the limitations the technology has in mimicking it. And you can tell the difference. I've covered this in previous videos regarding AI-generated pictures. They can get to the point where you're effectively portrait photo realistic when it comes to the face of a human being. The problem is when you look at the hands and it's all gobbledygook. The amount of flies around here right now are just terrifying. So look at this with me as I'm looking for overhangs where you might hide a trout or two. And good Lord. But it's a deep fake in that it's AI generated, and it's kind of a sad commentary if somebody actually paid for an account, because the better services that do this, not to mention the fact the person who did this may have actually committed, I forget what category the crime would fall under, but probably criminal impersonation, depending on the state and where it happened and the specs. But deep fakery for the sake of deception for things such as slander, this would be slander against Bob Gimlin specifically, is a crime. And all the more reason why Steve is perfectly right in another fly bites the dust. Hopefully before it starts to itch like a bastard. Steve is right to call it out because it is at least an act of defamation subject to civil tort, or it's a criminal impersonation case, which is an actual crime. I don't know what the actual standing jail time potential for that is, but you do things like that that fall under fuck around and find out. Oh, and I almost went in, got very wet in my clouded judgment of trying to get away from these flies. Not quite flight or fight, but it's... Jesus Christ, there's a lot of these fuckers. I wonder if I pop into the heavy woods, it'll act as a shield from these things, because out in the open, these things are relentless. So, there's that. And I haven't actually heard, admittedly, the deep fake, but Steve is practiced enough that I'm willing to take his word on it. And any of the charming believers, and no, I don't intend that as a compliment, that buy into anything, who want to say it is, or any of the scofftical-oriented trolls using it as an excuse to shit on either the PGF or Bob Gimlin or both. It's a fake, and like it or not, like so many other things that confound us about the PGF situation, it doesn't really prove or disprove anything other than some asshole with a little technical talent has a bit too much free time and misuses his talents when he could use his powers for good. I just literally had to headbutt one. So, a big fat F you to that guy. I don't know if Steve was trying to insinuate that this British dogman guy was the perpetrator or not. I don't get the impression. I think there were two different things going on now that I remember the bit of his video blog that he did. So, unlike some of his shows that are a little long-winded, no offense, Steve, I was able to get through 8 minutes of you updating people on this. And he sounds like a delightful individual either way. I wouldn't see eye to eye with him anyway, because I don't buy... Jesus Christ, flies. We're going to take a break in a minute so I can reapply some bug spray. This is getting ridiculous. Either that or I've garnered the attention of the uber flies. They just don't care. Black flies are like that. But he, I don't know the guy. That's my other disclaimer. Never encountered him, but anybody who's claiming you have heavy cryptid activity in England, prove it or shut up. Okay, I'm going to take a break real quick for the sake of my sanity and reapply some bug spray, because these things are like really relentless. I'll be back in a bit. We are in a different area, obviously. The second coating seems to be slightly better at keeping the little biting assassins off me, but for how long? That field, I wanted to stay longer and look at some fishing spots, but my God, their self-insistence was ridiculous. Right now, I think I have enough on me to keep them at bay for a little while anyway. Where were we? Yeah, Dogman in New Britain. In Britain. Bullshit. And I've wasted more time than I should on such matters. I think that Steve could probably pick fights with better adversaries than such a joke as that, but he's also a big boy. And if the person attacked him first, I've had people come after me now and again for similar things, so wouldn't be the first time for me either. And anyone who knows me knows I've been around for a while, and there's a term, flame war veteran. Been there, done that. You're nobody new. For anyone who wants to tell me you've never seen the likes of me before, I'd be willing to bet you I've seen somebody similar enough. You're not really anything that groundbreaking, so I'm not worried about it. Anyway, deep fakes of Bob Gimlin aside, people making silly claims is where we find ourselves next, because yesterday and beginning into the day before, once again, the lovely debate over stick structures begins with an interesting exchange on Bigfoot believers. And when I say that, it's not just any one group. There's actually, to my knowledge, obviously Facebook has no limitation on duplicate group names, because there's at least 5 different names, or 5 different groups with the name Bigfoot believers. And that is literally what their mandate apparently is. Like, why are you here if you don't believe? It's not a fucking religion. And I say that as somebody who's actually seen one of these things, and the bottom line is, folks, it's either physically there or it isn't. And if I stop believing in it, it isn't going to melt and fade away. If it's a living, breathing creature we haven't identified yet. We discover new species all the time, and you know what? Just because man in his arrogance hadn't freaking noticed them yet doesn't mean they weren't there for a long ass time before. And if Biggie is really out there, he's no different. He's just a lot better at hiding than some of these other. Well, they were hiding in plain sight, or they look a lot like another species. We never made the difference, never differentiated between them before. Well, Biggie probably knows we're not that great for him, and just knows to avoid us like the plague. And we're gonna, if I can do it without tripping over all this lovely driftwood shit, and not instantly be mugged by these damn flies. It's a little bit better over here. But no, they found me. In the other field, though, my God, there was no shortage of them. Anyway, interesting exchange in this group pertinent to stick structures. And so people make the claim, and one person's a repeat offender. You know, I have great pictures of these great stick. Great, where are they? Show me. He shows me this one picture with a weak angle of a bunch of trees that could have just as easily been dropped by wind, whatever, gravity, snow load, a combination of all of the above. And so, I mean, he gets pissy because he shows you one picture, and people like this show you one picture and they demand that you accept their bullshit. No. I'm kind of your worst nightmare in that regard, because having actually seen one, I know what I can apply from my own memory against what you're claiming you saw, or what you have a picture of. And I want to jump over there, but if I sink into that, I'm going to be up to my hip in this shit. I've had that happen before. It really does suck. I'm going to hang back here. We'll just take in this lovely view. I know you have minnows in here, because in my own exploration of this, I've seen plenty of them. There's no shortage of frogs, because I just saw a tadpole go by. You probably don't have any. The last time I fished in a spot like this, I did a little better than bother the resident frog population and all that. I guess for right now, the DEET's kind of working, knock on wood, because they're swarming around me, but unlike before when the sweat was starting to wear it off, and I am going to retreat again before they start changing their minds. They were landing, they were biting, and I was like getting to the point where I couldn't even concentrate on making my commentary, because my God, they were just trying to bite me left and right. If I get back in the trees, maybe that gives me some cover. So, not really a fan of the fact that some of my behavior is being dictated by biting insects, but they were that bad. Okay, so I'm going to find the path of least tripping, poking, and such, and we'll go from there. Mildly tweaking the landscape to do it. And having just half inhaled in a spider web, I'd rather deal with the spider than the flies. If he ends up getting a free ride on me for a bit and happens to eat one of those flies, he just made a friend. I might just call that applied nature. The thing that eats the biting thing that's making me miserable is my buddy, and can hang out on me as long as he doesn't lay eggs in my brain. A common spider joke I use when silly people on Facebook try to say, hey, what kind of spider is this? My canned response is basically, they crawl in through your ear, they lay eggs in your brain, and the young come out through your nose. It's fine. Just a little itching. When in fact it would actually be pretty horrible, but that's why you don't let bugs crawl up your face holes. They might have other ideas. All right, so you have this one guy, I think his name is Crypto Ken or some lovely little euphemism. And he was claiming he has this photo of these really weird thing, and only Bigfoot could have done this because, of course, only Bigfoot could have done it. Otherwise, that makes him fundamentally full of shit. And when you're selling nonsense, we can't have that. Now, whether or not, and of course, what does he do when I ask him for, so he shows me the pictures, and I do what I normally do. Is this the only picture you took? Or did you actually do something science-y and go up to it and photograph it from multiple angles to give a comprehensive look at it? Because that's what you should do. And if the answer is no, then the obvious question in follow-up is why? Is science just not a priority? Or are you trying to present one particular angle to back up your claim? When if you walk 45 degrees to your left, clearly it's no big deal. Many of the X formation looks like a X formation if it's directly in front of you, like 25 yards in directly ahead of you. But if you move to an angle and you see that they're actually placed at different angles and distances, it becomes nothing. And a lot of these jokers claiming stick structures, when they actually do come across it, and yes, I'm going to go there and say shots fired, they're building them themselves. And a lot of this bullshit is self-created, because these are people that are hunting for clicks and hunting for likes and clout. And a lot of them are probably, I hate to say it, from a certain generation, because they don't even value money anymore. It's like, well, how many likes and how many clicks do you have? How much clout do you? Who fucking cares? Social media is not going to last forever, at least in its present form. How do I know that? Once upon a time, Bigfoot lived on web forums. Now it's Facebook. Facebook is probably not going to last forever. It may be around. I mean, MySpace is still around, but do you use it? Do you have billions of people and friends on it that you go to every day? No, you don't. And these goddamn flies, good Lord. Anyway, I'm going to take a break, and we'll catch up when I think of more things to say. But the flies are following me out, it seems, so I need to, at the very least, be a more mobile target. So rather than yap on this and get hung up in this undergrowth by not paying attention to my lack of navigational consideration, I'm going to get moving. So we'll be back again in a new location in the running battle with the biting flies. Once they find you, man, they are bad. So going back to my storytelling from Facebook, the other reactions to the skepticism towards stick structures, and do understand, I did kind of frame my argument to the absolute of there is no evidence that stick structures are a Bigfoot thing, because in truth there really isn't. And you could apply the same thing to wood knocks and a bunch of other Bigfoot related accepted lore, because lore is basically what it is. Interestingly, more people than not, if we are going to play the game of cloud and likes and all that, more people than not seem to agree with me more than they didn't. They're at least willing to concede that 99% of these things are basically just a bunch of sticks on the ground. Few and far between are the ones that I just... When I use the derogatory term believer, B-L-E-E-V-E-R, they are not the majority of the people there, because even people within the woo have a slightly sliding scale that most of these things are explainable under natural circumstances. Simply put, if it was that common, we wouldn't be still looking for them. They'd be pretty much doing this in our backyard for our entertainment, for money or shit. And they're not. So, alternative explanations again, just for the sake of covering the bases and beating the dead horse. Gravity, high winds, snow load, and people. Why would people do this? Because kids build forts in the woods, hunters build blinds, hippie-esque hikers do weird shit because they're hippies, and bushcrafters do it because bushcraft literally is building survival shelters and other survival skills in the woods, not because you have to, but because you have fun knowing how. These are the people that do this stuff, and there's a lot of them. Out in the middle of nowhere in Vermont, and when I say out in the middle of nowhere, I mean when you've hiked in more than 2 miles into the woods, and there may be a trail like a half a mile to your left, and you're way off in the middle of nowhere, people are building these things out there because that's where bushcrafters go for their solitude. They don't want to be right on the given path. That way people don't screw with the thing you built, and you can go back to it, and it's your little secret place where you go to play Boy Scout. And I hope you're having fun, because it is fun doing stuff like that. I should probably do it more. I should probably go fishing more. Anyway, there are a few diehards out there that are just like, I'm not even going to dignify that with a response, blah, 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 yeah, because they have their secret knowledge. They have their secret knowledge, and they know better. Yet when you ask them to back it up, no, it's a matter of faith. No, it's not. Bigfoot is not a religion. Bigfoot is not the Niflheim, and Bigfoot is not an alien unless you can actually bring forth proof and prove it. Why? Science. That's why. I'm not going to get into a whole religious debate on this, because that's a whole different can of worms, obviously. And that turns into a whole theist versus atheist freaking discussion, and I'm not getting into that. I don't delve into politics any more than I have to either, and there's plenty going on right now that I could easily do that, but I'm going to leave that little can of worms alone. Anyway, most of my time coming up is going to probably be dodging more bug bites, so I'm going to give more attention to defensive fly tactics, and I am going to say that for this one, like, subscribe, leave commentary on things. If you disagree with me, tell me why. And what I'm saying by that, and that's going to be my final shot of the people from yesterday, the parting shot, so to speak, the last word, if you will, as I goad them a little bit more. Don't just declare me full of shit and then resort to name calling. Tell me why I'm wrong. The one thing that got under my skin a little bit yesterday were the people that came right out when I proposed this in the Believer group. And there actually seem to be more people that actually have sense than there aren't. You had one person, it's time for the ban hammer, because I know I'm speaking heresy, because I don't just blindly believe everything. Well, fuck you. You're the people that are causing the problem that make this thing unable to be taken serious by the mainstream of society, because you're just believing in stupid shit and you're actually trying to force it down people's throats. You're the same kind of people that are trying to convince the world that the world is flat when the world is not flat. It's not round either, because gravity actually compresses the poles a little bit more than the rest, so it's actually kind of ovoid, if you didn't know that. But anyway, as I see a freaking bug, he's like, you're probably watching him fly into my hand. Son of a bitch. Anyway, if you're gonna disagree with me in the comments, make an argument for yourself. Make it a debate. Make a case for yourself. And that is why I don't often respond to people that resort to the name calling, because you're resorting to name calling simply because you don't have an argument to back up your case. Deep down, you know you're full of shit. And that makes you not worth my time. unless you're going to actually bring a debate to the forefront. And I don't see a valid one happening out of the woo side of the aisle. No offense to the people that actually do have at least the grace to not resort to name calling. Anyway, my final thought, other updates I can think of, I have been on a more technical note. I'm collecting the parts to see if I can get a motion sensor LoRaWAN radio capable related device that I can then power off a base station. I have the base station software to install on that, and then I have the it's called the TAC servers. Actually, you've used for things like search and rescue and things like that, but you can use it as it's basically a GIS, if you know what that is. It's map related software that's used as a base command kind of software for the guy with a laptop that's organizing like a search and rescue effort if you have a missing hiker or somebody similar like that. I'm going to use it more as a mothership application if it works the way I hope it does. You're out camping for the night and you have a couple of these motion sensor devices out in the woods around a perimeter, and you try to lure in one of these creatures and it trips the sensor and the resulting camera. Then you get a real-time hit on the LoRaWAN mothership thing that's plugged in there, and you can monitor all 7 of these things at once. And if your perimeter gets breached by anything, you get a real-time thing of that. And if I can jerry-rig a way to have the camera send the picture, that may not be feasible over LoRaWAN because the bandwidth is too much in terms of demand. That may not work, and it would probably affect photo quality, but you can know that certain cameras had contacts at the very least. It's a more organized way to do something like that. So that's in the works. I have to fine-tune the solar applications of that, but that's in the works. I have one camp computer that's ready, the smaller of the two, and I have some finishing touches to put on the other one. But that's ready, and that'll be coming up in the coming weeks. I do intend to do my first overnight up here in the next month. Hopefully not just myself. We can make a team effort out of it. There's a couple of people that want to go, and they just need to find their schedules in a agreeable state with my own. But that's up and coming. And if you're going to call me names, then don't expect a response. If you actually have a debate you want to have, then we'll do it. But, honey gets you more than vinegar when you're the fly. Like that little bastard biting my wrist right now. Anyway, we're going to let you go so I can fend them off better, and we'll catch you next time, unless I actually have a creature pop out and want to shake my hand on camera or something similar, or happen across a moose, and that makes for a nice outro. Anyway, that's it for now, and we will catch you next time otherwise. And we're going to tune out from the 5 bogs right now. Bog number 2, even though it's more of a meadow than a bog. You got water right there, so technically we'll call it a bog. And we'll take it from there, and we'll catch you next time. So we'll see you later. Bye.